In this video I'm going to guide you through setting up coded fields within Access. In terms of what you should have done by now, you should have a pets table and an owners table. And for both of those tables we should have created two forms. Okay, so tables is where data will be stored, and you've created two forms, one for the owners table and one for the pets table. Now forms allow you to input data to those tables in a kind of user-friendly manner. They also allow you to navigate between the different records in the table, which you might need to do to update, delete or add new records, and you can kind of see that that ties up with the buttons that you should have also added onto both your forms at the bottom here. So just to show you what we mean by that, so if I type in the name here, so Alex is the name of a pet, yes it's a pedigree, male, etc. And if I carried on doing that throughout all my forms and saved that record and moved on to a new record and started again, so Bob, yes, male, etc. And I could keep going, add record or save record, add record, you can see that I can navigate between the records I've just created. If I just refresh my table view very quickly, so just close down my pets table just to refresh the view, you can see that that data is being captured from the form, is being stored in the table. Okay, so forms have two purposes really, to be able to enter data quickly and also edit, update the records as well, so make changes. So Alex has had a name change to Tracy, for example, female, save that, and let's say Bob's been deleted, press yes. You can see if I go back to the pets table now that everything I do through the forms is allowing me to kind of edit, update, add data to the table, okay, in a user-friendly way. So that's where you should be, two tables, two forms, and what we're going to have a look at is coding fields now. So if you remember in lesson, and this is from last week, we were looking at the fields in our database and we're looking at this idea of coding. And basically this basic idea that where possible we want to kind of shorten the amount of data that we capture, because that's going to have numerous benefits for our database. It's going to save storage space, it's going to mean that I'm less likely to make an error when I'm inputting data, and it's also going to make it a lot quicker for me to enter data as well. Okay, so the highlighted fields in yellow are the ones that you're going to have to set up coding for on the database. I'm going to run you through it for gender, but once you understand how to do it for gender, you should then be able to repeat it for the fields highlighted in yellow. Okay, right. So at the moment, if I look at my pets form, I can type whatever I want into the gender field, save it, cross it off, and refresh it, and my database will store it. Okay, now that's not the situation that we want. We want to make sure that the user can only input our coded values to reduce the chances of them making a mistake on input. We also want to make sure we can only store one character, or the smallest number of characters possible, because that's going to save us storage space in the long run, and it's also going to help us improve input time. So how do we do that? Well, the first thing I need to do is go into design view of the table. Okay, I'm going to select my gender field, and I'm going to change the data type of the gender field, and I'm going to use something called a lookup wizard. Okay, now in the lookup wizard I can basically restrict the values that can be entered into that field. Now I want to use two columns because I'm using coding. Okay, now in the first column I'm going to type in M or F, and then in here I'm going to type in male and female, the full version. Okay, so that, and you'll see why I do that later on, it makes it more user friendly for the users later on. If the field is already coded, for example blood type, you don't need to have this second column. Okay, so just bearing that in mind when you're doing things like title fields or the blood type field, you're only going to need to use one column. But in this situation I am shortening the data, so I'm going to press next on that. Now I only want to store the value in column 1 because that's my code, the M or the F, so I'm going to press next again. And what I do want to do here is limit to lists, because I don't want users to be able to type in their own values into the list. We want to restrict them to the two coded fields in this situation, so I'm going to click finish on that. Okay, now what you should notice straight away is if I cross that table off from design view and open up table view, if I go to this field now, you can see that I've got the option there to store one of two values, an M or an F, which is a good start. Okay, what I need to do next though is go back to my pets form, because unfortunately my pets form won't have updated. Okay, I need to update my pets form so it now matches the table. And I'll give you an example. So if I go in here now and put in a G there and save that record and cross it off, my pets table will still store it. Okay, so I need to refresh my form so it now matches up with the change I've made to the table. So to do that, I'm just going to go to the pets table. I'm going to put the pets table into, the pets form. I'm going to put the pets form into design view. I'm going to select that gender field and delete it off. Okay, and then I'm going to refresh it now by going across to adding existing fields, and I'm going to drag the gender field back on again into the same position, like so. And if I put that into form view now, you should see that the only options I have are to enter the M or the F. Okay. Now there is one little thing I can do to make this a little bit more user friendly, and I'm just going to go back into design view and show you that as well. So if I select that one field, and I might just need to remove layout if this is doing the same for you, so remove layout, so I can select an individual field. But if I go back to that gender field and click on its property sheet, can you see here I've got the two widths of the columns in that drop down box? Well, they don't really need to see the code, the person using the form. We just need to store it, so I'm just going to hide that by putting that down to 0. And if you have a look at what that's done now, if I go back to this form, okay, so the only thing you can see in there is the full version of the data. But the rather clever thing now is if I create some more records, so I'm just going to put in two fields here, just use Alex1 as a first name, male, and let's add in another one, Alice, and choose a different one there, add that. So I've created those records. If I just go back to my table, you can see that, did I save those records? Yeah, there we go. There you go. You can see my different pet names, and you can see I'm storing the coded version of the data. So it's taking up less storage space, and obviously when I'm inputting, it's very hard for me to make a mistake, and it's also quicker than actually having to manually type in the data yourself. Okay, so all the advantages of coding. So to finish this video, what you need to do is run through that skill set and apply it to the following fields in your pets table. Okay, good luck.